The Muppet Christmas Carol is widely seen as a Christmas classic that many people make an effort to watch every year. However, this isn't the Muppets' only Christmas movie. There are two more that I rarely hear anyone talk about. It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas movie and a Muppet Christmas Letters to Santa. However, unlike the Muppet Christmas Carol, these were released on TV as opposed to theater, and they aren't nearly as loved or as discussed as Muppet Christmas Carol. Even the specials that debuted on TV, like A Muppet Family Christmas, get a lot more love than these two movies do. But is this lack of discussion warranted? Let's find out. It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas movie released on NBC in 2002 and is about an hour and a half long. This movie follows the plot of It's a Wonderful Life. When they lose the studio, Kermit wishes he was never born and sees what the world would be like if he was never born. This is a wild movie. When a Muppet movie mentions a topless nightclub only 15 minutes in, you know it'll be interesting.
The permit to operate a topless nightclub?
What?
All the contracts?
Wait a minute, a permit for a topless nightclub?
Better safe than sorry, okay?
This movie came out during a pretty dark period for the Muppets, as it was during that period after the Henson era where the Muppets were struggling to find relevance. As after the Henson era, there was Muppet Christmas Carol and Muppet Treasure Island, which both did pretty well. However, after those two, we got Muppets from Space, which was unable to even make back its budget, which led to a 12-year gap between theatrical Muppet movies. This, combined with other elements like the failure of Muppets Tonight only a few years prior, led to a period that felt like they were just very unsure about what to do with the Muppets. I think the confusion about what should be done with the Muppets at this time is why the movie has a lot of adult jokes like the aforementioned topless nightclub joke, as well as a pretty dark tone. I feel like this movie was the Muppets trying to embrace their more adult side. This dark tone mainly comes in during the It's a Wonderful Life part of the movie, which leads to a lot of entertainingly strange and out there moments, like Rizzo getting eaten on Fear Factor, Fozzie being a pickpocket, Beaker looking like this, and Scooter being a caged dancer. However, Kermit's scenes with Miss Piggy and Gonzo do a good job at giving some less over-the-top and more sad and emotional scenes of what the world is like without Kermit. Despite these dark moments, the movie never feels too dark. As this part isn't too long, there are enough jokes to lighten the mood a bit, and it leads to a sweet scene with Gonzo and a sweet ending to the movie overall. I love the song that they sing together, and it has an expected but still sweet message that you'd expect this kind of story to have. Overall, I don't think this darker tone harms the movie, as elements like the ending still have a lot of heart, and it's not like Muppet Christmas Carol doesn't also get dark. Another element of this movie trying to be more adult was the fact that it had a lot of pop culture references. There were a few that were more family-oriented, like when Whoopi Goldberg mentioned SpongeBob.
You're just lucky SpongeBob isn't on right now.
That one is also one of the weakest ones, and many of the other ones are very entertaining because of how strange they are, like the aforementioned Fear Factor reference, as well as Miss Piggy on Scrubs.
I'm alive!
No, you're dead.
No, I'm alive!
No, you're dead.
I'm alive!
There's also an entertaining scene with Fozzie trying to bring the money to the movie's villain. And in this scene, I honestly wish that they went further with more references, as it was entertaining seeing Fozzie getting chased by Steve Irwin, and him trying to get away leads to him getting chased by the Who's. And I feel like the scene could have gone further with more over-the-top things happening, leading to Fozzie getting chased. Another issue I have is that it does feel a bit like not much happens in this movie, because the whole It's a Wonderful Life segment doesn't happen until about an hour in. And when I think back to that first hour, it doesn't feel like that much really happened. But I at least was never bored while watching this movie. The movie luckily goes by pretty quick, because things are happening, a lot of it just isn't super plot relevant. So it doesn't feel like much happened when you look back. A large part of the movie is all the stuff with them getting ready for and doing the Christmas show, and a lot of that doesn't have much of an effect on the plot, but at least it was entertaining. But obviously this movie's writing could have been better. They could have expanded more on the plot point of Kermit wishing he was never born, as opposed to taking an hour to get there. But I still would say it was overall an enjoyable movie. mainly because of how weird it was. There wasn't a dull moment in this movie, and a lot of the more out there jokes really worked for me. A Muppet's Christmas Letters to Santa aired on NBC in 2008 and is about 45 minutes long with an extended version that's about 10 minutes longer, but we'll get to that. In this movie, the Muppets cause a problem at the post office, and after they get kicked out, they realize that they have a few letters to Santa that never got sent. So Kermit, Fozzie, Gonzo, Pepe, and Rizzo go to the North Pole to get the letters to Santa. This movie feels like a complete 180 from It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie. Because while that movie felt like it was a darker take on the Muppets, this feels like a more childish take on the Muppets. And it feels like they're really trying to regain a child audience that they feel they've lost. That's because this movie feels like it's desperately trying to keep a kid's attention. They keep playing these annoying sound effects.
What has he done to this city?
Well, look at it like this.
Whoa, gentlemen, you cannot do that.
There's our first hit. You know, folks, I think it might be a little
Nuts?
Anyone want to?
I got put on the naughty list. Because I was a bully.
The characters are constantly talking directly to the camera. Sometimes it makes sense or is used for a joke, but a lot of the times the characters should be facing the other characters and not the camera. And there are a lot of technology and internet jokes throughout the movie. And technology is something that children's media really liked pretending that it understood around this time. And this movie doesn't really feel like it has a linear story. It just feels like it's trying to bounce from over-the-top wacky scene to over-the-top wacky scene. And some of them weren't bad. I liked the visual of all of them riding on the wing of the plane. The pigeon scene was funny to me just because of the main pigeon's voice.
To the North Pole.
Yeah, do you know how to get there?
Of course I do.
And the mafia scene was something I was not expecting from this movie. But then there are scenes like the scene in Airport Security, where it was a conflict that was just brought up and then quickly dropped. And the scene wasn't funny or interesting enough to make up for how pointless it felt. Unlike the last movie, this one actually had multiple original songs, but I forgot about all of them immediately after the movie ended. I also feel like this movie could have been more entertaining if Miss Piggy was also a part of the adventure, instead of just leaving right before that part of the movie begins. And like the last movie, the main part of the story, that being the trip to the North Pole, doesn't begin until about 20 minutes in, and they don't actually get there until about 30 minutes in. It would be more forgivable if the stuff leading up to this, as well as the little we got, was actually entertaining. But it just wasn't. This movie's a lot shorter than It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie, but felt a lot longer. And this extended version didn't help, because the movie ended after 45 minutes. And all the extended version added were bloopers, which were amusing at first, but got old as this was almost 10 minutes of them, with the only break being whatever this was in the middle. It feels like they just threw random stuff in at the end to make an extended edition of the movie. Also, why is Whoopi Goldberg on the cover? She had one line. Overall, while the movie had some good jokes and scenes, I was not a fan of it overall. But as a children's movie, it's fine, and obviously the movie wasn't made for people like me, grown men who care too much about the quality of Muppet content. But still, I personally enjoyed It's a Very Merry Muppet Christmas Movie more. Despite it being very strange, it was able to keep me entertained throughout. So overall, the movie with the bad CGI bug beats out the movie with the bad CGI plane.